Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers presented by Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to start your home buying process today. Company NMLSID number 1464766. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me tonight, the one and only JP Zapata. Charlie O'Connor will be by at some point or another. That's just how we have to. Sometimes it's quick. I wonder how Torts is feeling tonight.
Likewise.
After this one, it's been a weird group of games that they've been in. They've looked okay at points. They've come out flat for a few second periods in a row. JP, what was your first impression of this one?
Dude, this was frustrating. The win was there for them. I mean, Binnington, you definitely gave him some props here, but dude, I mean, we got to be able to score more goals there.
Yeah.
And that Kevin Hayes goal frustrates the crap. Not because, listen, welcome back, Kevin. I have no hard feelings toward Kevin Hayes, but the way that goal went in, like, are you kidding me?
It was the most Kevin Hayes bullshit I've ever seen in my life.
Oh,
Top maybe only by in overtime when he basically turns the puck over twice, falls down, and somehow it remains on his stick the entire time. But yeah, I think the first takeaway here is Jordan Binnington stops 40 out of 41, stops 3 out of 4 in the shootout. He now improves to 5-1-1 with a .927 save percentage in 7 starts against the Flyers. Obviously, that first career start in 2019 comes out, shuts out the Flyers in the Wells Fargo Center, and that jump starts their cup run that year. Yeah. But he has, I mean, they've beaten him in regulation one time in 7 starts.
That's wild.
He has had his way with the Flyers over the last few years, and that's really where it starts tonight is with him.
Well, I asked you during the game, I was like, yeah, what's Binnington been up to lately? Because, like, obviously we all remember that Stanley Cup run. Like, I was really good. Obviously, he was great in the Stanley Cup, but it's been obviously because, like, the Blues have been up and down. But, like, no, he's had a really good season here, and he's a big part of their win tonight.
He has really rebounded. At a point in St. Louis, it looked like he lost the starting job to Ville Husso a couple years ago, and Ville Husso sucked in the playoffs, so they put Binnington in, and then they traded Husso, and it's basically been Binnington since, and he's been a disappointment for the majority of his contract, but he's the reason they're kind of in the thick of things right now. Like, you look at Kevin Hayes, he did get the ultimate Flyers opponent special. Not only is he a former Flyer scoring against them, he also broke a 19-game drought without a goal, which, of course, you know, if you're in a goal drought, play the Flyers, and that's usually how it goes. So he had just a couple of villains tonight. But no, I tweeted earlier, like, I am an unapologetic Kevin Hayes fan. I think he tried his ass off here. He had some. His first season, tremendous. That was a lot of fun. His first year, the shorthanded goals, the game-winning goals. I thought he was better than he got credit for his second year. Then he goes and gets hurt. He tries to play through it. He has 3 different procedures done to correct whatever the core muscle issue he was having was. And then he still plays after the third one. It was like, buddy, maybe just sit out. And he felt, as one of the highest paid guys on the team, he owed his teammates to get back out there. He did. And then, you know, Torts comes in, doesn't really like him a whole lot. All the stuff he went through, the injuries, his brother passing away. I kind of thought he got a raw deal in terms of his treatment here. Now, the Flyers appear to have gotten ahead of something. You look at his numbers this year, I think he has 23 points this season. And like I just said, 19 games without a goal. Yeah, the Flyers may have got ahead of his decline, like you have those core muscle injuries. Kevin Hayes was never fast to begin with. You take a step away from a guy who was already kind of slow. What the hell is he in today's NHL where the whole game is real fast? So I never understood why anyone thought we were going to boo him. Kevin Hayes has his fingerprints all over the Cutter Gauthier thing. I think got dispelled pretty well by everyone involved. Like, I don't know.
But we know how this fan base is, and that's why I was worried if he would get booed or not. Because, like, I know, like, a lot of people are still harping on those Cutter Gauthier reports. Those are all just reports. They're not official or anything like that. But with Kevin Hayes, it is always interesting seeing an old player like that. I wanted to ask you, Bill, because, like, again, no hard feelings towards Kevin Hayes. I thought both sides just needed to go their separate ways at the end of it. But like, what bodes for a tribute video? Like, what is like, I guess, the guideline to get that tribute video coming back?
It seems like everyone gets them now. Like I think a certain number of games played, and there is something to like once a Flyer, always a Flyer. I do think everyone does it at this point, but like Patrick Sharp getting a job with the organization after he was, the dude we gave up on for years, and it's like, no, you're part of the family, man. I do think it is important to always kind of have that. If you wore this jersey, you are somehow intrinsically revered just because anyone who wears that jersey put it on the line for this organization. So I do kind of believe, like, unless it's just a real ugly parting of the ways, I can see that being but that doesn't, I was at Lindros's first game back. I don't think he got a tribute video. That was also like 20 years ago, so 22 probably. So I don't remember. But like if it's ugly like that, I can see maybe not giving someone the tribute video. But outside of that, like, yeah, if it was like Glenn Metropolitan coming back or something, okay, maybe he doesn't get one. But like I think if you played enough of a role here, you should definitely at least get a nice welcome back, a little bit of a highlight video.
But that goes to my point. Like, it's more than just what goes on in the culture on the ice, but it's off the ice. Doing those little things, like giving the tribute video. Even it's like a guy like Shane Gostisbehere last year. This year, Kevin Hayes. Obviously today we're all kind of happy and sad at the same time with the news of Jason Kelce retiring. It's really dope that Dan Hilferty put out that statement out there. And those little things, Bill, that's the difference with the Flyers now. They understand it, and I truly believe that.
That's where I think Keith Jones really comes into play here. And Dan Hilferty, growing up being a fan of all the teams in the city, not just growing up a hockey guy, but being, a Philadelphia sports fan. I do think, like, for a little bit there, the Flyers always kind of saw themselves on the outside. And there was a rivalry between all the teams. They pay a lot better attention to each other than they used to. But I think with the Flyers being that fourth team, like it's kind of incumbent on them to like, you need to reach out. Yeah. And you're not just the Flyers. You are a part of a greater Philadelphia sports scene, Amen. And the stuff with Jason Kelce today, donating to the Eagles Autism Channel, like all of that, I think is very important just in like, this is like, it is part of the culture here, not just the hockey team, but the city as a whole. So I do appreciate that. That was cool to see today. And just kind of carrying on that, like Philadelphia is one, like, yeah, all the teams are in competition with each other for our money. Like it's every single one of them wants our money. And how can they but beyond that, there is, like when you call yourself a 4-for-4 or a 5-for-5 fan with the Union, like there's something to that. So I do appreciate that.
Amen.
I want to get to some trade deadline stuff on tonight's show. We're going to go over the game a little bit, but nothing happened in this game. The Flyers got 41 shots. I remember like 6 of them. It was not the most interesting game. I want to talk a little bit about overtime, but first, man, I know the trade deadline, it's coming up. Trade deadline is coming up, and we are going to talk about the reports from Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts today that maybe the Flyers aren't going to be the sellers we thought they were. And if that's getting your blood pressure up, if you're getting a little hot, maybe you just need to chill, because I know that this team drives us nuts. We've been doing this a long time, and just talking about them gets me fired up. Thinking today, as Charlie's been telling us, like, don't get mad about things that haven't happened yet, because it's just bad for you, And I couldn't help it. I was getting a little fired up. I needed to chill with an ice-cold Coors Light. There's no better way to chill than with an ice-cold Coors Light. So when you're freaking out about the trade deadline, maybe injuries, I needed to chill when I saw Nick Seeler go down tonight. Whatever it might be, you need to find the Blue Mountains in your fridge and enjoy a beer as cold as the Rockies, because when everything surrounding your favorite hockey team is on fire, sometimes you just got to chill. When you choose to rise above it all, choose chill, choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY Hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Some other stuff I did want to talk about before we get to the main topic of today's show, I would say, is going to be the trade deadline, because that's the thing on everyone's mind. Sam Ersson was pretty damn awesome tonight. Did not have the workload that Jordan Binnington did, but he came up with big save after big save. Like you said, the one goal he gives up is Kevin Hayes on a breakaway where he loses the puck and it just kind of slides through his 5-hole. I thought it was a really strong bounce-back game for Sam Ersson. I want to see what his final line was tonight. He ended up
saves, 25 shots,
24 out of 25 for a .960, and played the full 65 minutes there. That's a nice bounce back performance. There have been plenty of games this year, and I think his last few have been some of them where his stat line is not indicative of how well he plays, because the Flyers don't give up many shots. But sometimes they have major breakdowns that lead to tremendous scoring opportunities, and Ersson was pretty damn good on all of them tonight. A lot of odd man rushes, some rebounds that he was able to swallow up. I was really happy with Sam Ersson tonight.
Dude, I mean, think about it. He could have won us the game here if it wasn't for Kevin Hayes. God knows what that goal was, but no, 24 saves, 25 shots. Ersson again just coming up big for the Philadelphia Flyers here. And like the last game, there was a lot of penalties. This one there was 3 power play opportunities here for the St. Louis Blues, and Ersson on those PK opportunities there. He really did it. He stepped up big there. He's been no one really talks about it because obviously the PK has been so good because of the shorthanded goal opportunities that they've had. But Sam Ersson seems to come up big when the Flyers are on the PK as well. He makes some pretty big saves. But I mean, this obviously, like when you're talking about winning, we'll talk about some of the other things the Flyers do need to do in order to win some of these games. But when Sam Ersson plays like this, you should win most of the games. I realize on the other end, like you can say the same thing about Binnington, but it is I'm now judging you as a playoff team. And I realize you're without Travis Konechny, and that changes a whole lot. But there have been times the Flyers have played teams without some of their best players this year, and we've said, well, that's hockey. It's a contact sport. Guys are going to miss time. That's what's going on right now. And listen, dudes like Tyson Forster, Owen Tippett, they had a lot of opportunities tonight. They easily could have netted a few. They hit some posts. And they mentioned on the broadcast, like, live by the post, die by the post. You know, that Felix Sandstrom game against the Sens, what'd they hit? 4 posts in the last 2 minutes of the game? Sometimes these things have a way of evening themselves out in the course of a season. Maybe that's what tonight was, but you just need somebody to step up. And in a game at home with, I don't want to say playoff implications, because, like, you're playing a Western Conference team. You saw at the end tonight, both teams were like, let's go to OT. Let's both get this point, and then we'll sort it out in overtime, Overtime, it wasn't like either team was desperate either. Right.
You know what? This puck might be turned over. Let's just send it all the way back to the goalie. Like, I don't want to say this one directly impacts, but with 19, 20 games left, whatever it is, like, every point matters. I need more than Scott Laughton in the crease from Ryan Poehling to be the offense. Like, that can't be your only offense if you're a legitimate playoff team.
Or just like, you know, like a lot of their goal opportunities are just on odd man rushes too, man. Like, you can't always just rely on those things as well. It is definitely tough there. But like, I'll say this, like, yeah, I would say maybe like a couple minutes before the end of the third, I guess I got on the same agreement, like, yo, point. Let's just do it.
It was one of those very obvious, like, there've been, it's been shown, like, anyone who does like game modeling, like, oh yeah, guess what disappears in the last 5 minutes of a tie game? It's scoring opportunities. Both teams just kind of go, we're good. We'll take the point. But tonight was like one of the obvious ones. You know, like, let's just get over the red line and dump it. If you get a chance, just tie the puck up and along the boards. Like, it was very, very clear that both teams just wanted to take the point tonight. Someone who I think deserved a better stat line than he ended up with, though, is Cam York, man. Cam York played one of his best games of the season. Ends up no points, 3 shots on goal. And what was his shot block number? I have it right here. Cam York blocked. It says 4. They all were pretty meaningful blocked shots. I joked around on Twitter, if you teach Cam York to fight, all of a sudden who plays Nick Seeler's role? That question is answered with a dude who can do other stuff too. And I don't want to take anything away from Nick Seeler and his toughness and his willingness to do anything, but Cam York really, I think, showed you despite having no points in the game, like all the little things that he can do. He had 7 blocks in their last game, another 4 tonight, had a few hits, had some golden scoring opportunities, put one right off the shoulder into the crossbar in overtime. Tough luck for York tonight, but a really, really strong game.
Dude, he's really been, I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the year. Like, we didn't know what to expect from Cam York. Will he take one of those top spots as a defenseman? And as the season's gone on, he's matured and blossomed before our eyes. You know, you mentioned the block shots, which is really huge. And besides Marc Stahl, all the defensemen really got after with the block shots here tonight. But like, even like you look in OT, I mean, Cam York probably had the best opportunity in OT with that wide open shot that just hit the iron there. And so those are the type of things that we are just loving from Cam York. Him and Travis Sanheim have been great as a top pairing right now as far as the defenseman goes. Let's get some more goals there besides the empty netters, which we know that Cam York can hit those.
Cam York is maybe Cam York needs to shoot from the red line. Like maybe he's just better from distance. Like, you know, like Jake Elliott, you know what? He struggles with like the 30 to 35 yard field goals.
That's true.
But like 52, that's walking the park.
Not a problem.
Like maybe Cam York is shooting too close. He needs Dave Hackstall. We can run all those low to high plays, and those were the days. Yeah, man, Marc Stahl. People were all over Marc Stahl tonight. I didn't think he was that bad. Did take a penalty, couple of shots, but it is like,
he is what he is at this point.
At what point does playing him not make sense? And I guess as long as the priority is making the playoffs, they're going to go with the veteran, because coaches would rather listen. I know he's not that good and he's going to get beat, but I know what to expect from him. I could put Ronnie Attard in there, and maybe he makes a play to win me the game, or maybe he single-handedly loses me the game, and I trust that Marc Stahl won't. I guess I understand that line of thinking.
Yeah, and I mean, we feel like we've had these conversations with different, obviously, like when we had like Bobby Brink down there, Morgan Frost being in and out of the lineup as well. We've always had these type of conversations, whether to play the young kid over the vet. I mean, in these type of situations, I'm more along the lines, like I would like to see maybe a little more Ronnie Attard in some of these starts. Maybe like on a night like tonight, seeing Ronnie Attard, I wouldn't have minded seeing. But I mean, Marc Stahl, I'm not going to kill him. I mean, he is what he is. He really is bringing just that veteran leadership here. That was one of the big reasons why you did bring in Marc Stahl, especially to line him up with Yegor Samula as well. But I mean, obviously, slow that penalty he had there in that third period. I mean, like, what are you doing, Marc Stahl? But again, like, how much can you kill a guy at this point of his career? It's like, what, year 20 now? Year 21?
Yeah, he's closing in on 2 decades in the
elementary
league.
School.
Like at a certain point, yeah, like what can you really be mad about with Marc Stahl? I'd rather someone else be in there, but at least up to the trade deadline, it makes sense to me. And I guess, well, let's talk. We'll ask Charlie about the overtime decision to put out, what was it, Poehling and Cates? Poehling and Cates started overtime with Sanheim. I want to ask Charlie about that decision because that's really funny. And the first trade deadline thing I want to get to tonight is we had a real scare there with Nick Seeler going down. And listen, I, at this point, am kind of expecting Nick Seeler to stay. That said, I keep hearing that he is asking for more money and the Flyers are comfortable giving him, and it's coming up. You know, Friday, it's coming up. They only have so much time to make this decision. You can't, like, I don't think you should keep Seeler or Walker either way, but you can't keep Nick Seeler if you're that far up. Like, well, I want $1.5 million more than you're willing to offer me. You can't keep him, and like that's still the problem when the season ends. Like, okay, now we can't trade you, and I don't think we want to keep you at that price. Like, no, you have to do one or the other. And tonight, that opportunity to do at least one of them was nearly taken away.
I know.
Nick Seeler has blocked roughly 65,000 shots this season. This one was a little scary because you see it on the heel. I realize it's not like a push off or something like that, but we've seen guys just bruise or injure their Achilles other than tearing it, and it can be a long-term injury. And if it breaks the heel, if it breaks his instep, whatever it might be, he's out for the season, and now trading him is completely off the table.
You never know with those type of shots. I mean, like that shot's like coming at you like 80, 90 miles per hour.
And it was Colton Parayko. Like, yeah, he could fucking shoot, man.
It was really hard to tell where exactly hit him on that foot. Like, listen, I'll be honest, it's been a long time since I had some really good ice skates. Since I was a kid, I had those good ice skates, but like it kind of looked like it hit the spot where there wasn't that padding there. So definitely was scary. You know, I think I speak for the rest of us here. When I saw Charlie's tweet, I was like, all right,
Yeah,
let's go.
no, I was okay. He's back out there. Like, get back out there, kid. But just to see, like, it's crazy that he hasn't had more of. And like, I remember Chemo teaming, and it was like, yeah, man, everyone likes to get their skates sharpened at intermission, and he can't because if he ever takes a skate off, it ain't getting back on. Because then they said it on the broadcast, like, yeah, your foot really swells up when you take the skate off, so they just don't sometimes. That was he definitely didn't, and we'll see if there's any further word. Maybe he just toughed it out. It is scary when you like. You realize how many of those he's taken, and it's, he's a little dinged up. He's right back out there. And then you see him go right down the tunnel. You're like, oh, fuck, this must be bad. Like, this must be really, really bad. And now we will get to the man who saved us from that dread. I needed to chill when I saw Nick Seeler take that shot to the heel. We will get to Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. It is Charlie O'Connor. How's it going tonight, Charlie? That was a rousing game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing game of the season, I'll say that, for the Flyers. But I guess they get a point out of it. Not the best all around. Definitely have some things to break down from from what I heard from the players and from Torts. But they're in a playoff race. They got a point. So
it is important to get that point. It seemed like both teams, with a couple of minutes left, went, You good going to OT? We're both good with this point, okay? And they did. Someone who did have a standout performance, I thought, tonight, despite not showing up on the score sheet in terms of goals or assists, Cam York, Charlie. I have criticized Cam York at points this season, just not noticeable enough to me. I think his last 2 games, I mean, the shot block numbers, I think he's got 11 over the last 2 games, but he just seems to be asserting himself a lot more. Would you agree?
yeah, I thought he was good tonight. I didn't think he was incredible, but I liked quite a few of his shifts. He nearly scored a couple times. He had one, it was either in overtime or late in regulation. But yeah, he's been good. Look, he's a good defenseman. He's a good top 4 defenseman. Whether he can take another leap in the coming years, I don't know. Whether he is part of this defense 4 or 5 years down the road, or whether he gets traded in some sort of bigger deal to get a bigger guy, I don't know. I look at Cam York as one of those guys where if he's on your team, great. But he's also a guy who, where they're at in their situation, the rebuild, whatever you want to call it, like, they're going to have to trade away pieces to get high-end guys. Cam York strikes me as someone where it's like, well, if 3 years down the road the Flyers don't have a #1, maybe Cam York is one of the guys you trade away in a deal for an actual #1. So he's not a guy that I think is essential to the team, but he's a pretty darn good player. He's a solid top 4 defenseman.
Hey, Charles, what's going on? JP over here. I'm not sure if Torts talked about this at all at the presser, but obviously a lot of us were a little nervous when we saw Nick Seeler go down with that shot there. I don't know if any word, would that like hit his ankle or anything? Like where exactly, do you know where exactly like it was hurting for Nick Seeler on that play?
I do not know. I
Okay.
do not have the ability to put myself in the mind of Nick Seeler. It hit him somewhere on the foot. He then came back for the third, and apparently I was not paying close attention to this because I was focused on the game. But Kevin Durso, who covers the Flyers for 97.3, said that he left the bench with about 9 minutes left. He didn't have another shift the rest of the game. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay.
John Tortorella was not asked after the game, primarily because there's no point to asking. He's not going to know. Like, it's not like the trainer's going to tell him in the middle of an overtime game, like, by the way, Nick Seeler broke his foot. It's a pointless ask. There's no reason to burn a question on it. I guess we'll find out in the next couple days. My hope is that it's just a bad bruise. Maybe worst case scenario, it ends up being something kind of like Tyson Forrester, where he missed a little bit of time, bad bruise on his foot, comes back, and now he's killing it. I thought, you pointed out Cam York as the first guy. I thought Tyson Forrester was one of the best Flyers on the ice. He did, when you said guy who looked really good but didn't end up on the score sheet, I absolutely thought you were going to say Tyson Forrester, because to me, Forrester could have scored a hat trick in this game. He had that many chances. So maybe it ends up being something like that. Maybe Nick Seeler, when they go out for practice again on Wednesday, he's perfectly fine. Wouldn't put it past him, given the fact that this guy has blocked, what, like 180 shots at this point this year and somehow hasn't gotten hurt yet. Look, I get why people are concerned. Number one, he's an important part of this defense if they keep him. Number two, he's a guy that they're talking about potentially moving. If I had to bet, I would bet they don't move him. Now, obviously, this potential injury, throws a wrinkle into that. But even if he was healthy, my guess has always been, basically for the last month and a half, was that Nick Seeler is not going to be traded. But his name's clearly out there. Teams are asking about him. Teams are probably making offers, as to the Flyers as to what it might take to bring him over to their team. So you don't want to see a guy who's in trade talk get hurt right before the trade deadline. I guess we'll just have to wait and see on this one. But I don't have any details. No one really has any details this soon. Hopefully it's more like Tyson Forrester than Noah Cates, where Noah Cates took his boot off after the game in November and then was out for 2 months. Hopefully it's not that. Hopefully it's more like Forrester.
Charlie, there was a tribute video for Kevin Hayes. This was his first game back in Philly after the offseason trade to St. Louis and everything that happened there. JJ and Bush said before the game they expected some boos. Kevin said he expected some boos. But then when they mentioned the video tribute in the first period, they said they didn't hear any. It was a warm welcome. Obviously, it's a different story when he scores because he fucking scored. But what was the initial reception for Kevin Hayes in his return?
I thought it was mostly positive. Look, at this point, I've seen a lot of these video tributes at the first stoppage to former players. This was not one of the loudest I've heard. I've certainly heard other players come back and get a much larger cheer. However, I didn't hear boos. It was polite claps. Generally people seem fine with it. It didn't seem like anybody has held a grudge against Kevin Hayes due to the rumors about his supposed influence on Cutter Gauthier. I'll put it that way. However, it's not like people were falling out of their chairs to scream and yell about how much they love Kevin Hayes. It was a cordial, respectful clap, I would say. No more, no less. And then obviously he scores the goal, and then he gets booed. But that's happened to Claude Giroux. Claude Giroux gets booed when he scores now because you know what? He's the enemy now, so he gets booed if he does something that hurts the Flyers. So would Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes didn't, to my ear, didn't take any added grief from fans beyond what you would expect. But he also wasn't getting the reception of like a returning conquering hero or anything. Let me put it that way.
Are we sure the noise for Giroux, is it the roo that never made sense to me, but people did? Go ahead, JP.
Charlie, what was your thought on the starting lineup here in OT? Cates, Poehling, and Sanheim to start it all off in OT.
Oh, in OT, I didn't love it. I mean, obviously they spend the first 2.5 minutes without the puck. Until I guess Ersson makes a save, covers the puck. They finally get a line change out there. I would prefer they launch with a more offensively threatening duo. I mean, Sanheim's fine, obviously, but Poehling, Cates, that strikes me as more of a we're going to try to shut you down in that first shift and then come at you the second time. What I will say, however, is that the fact that they don't have Travis Konechny does limit their options a bit. The only player on this team that is healthy right now that I look at as being man, he would scare me in 3-on-3 is Owen Tippett. That's probably it. Because Sean Couturier, number one, isn't playing all that great. Number two, has never been a 3-on-3 god. He's not that great of a skater, never has been. Morgan Frost, I guess, is probably number two. Joel Farabee, who I love, isn't really the kind of guy who I look at. I'm man, he scares me at 3-on-3. It's basically just Tippett and Konechny. They don't have Konechny. So, yeah, I mean, if I had the choice, would I went out there with Frost, Tippett, Sanheim instead of Poehling, Cates, Sanheim? Yeah, I would have. And they almost got burned because they ended up having to spend the first 2 minutes without the puck as a result of that decision. That said, they don't have great options right now. And Torts very clearly loves this Poehling, Cates, Hathaway line. That struck me as just a way for him to confirm just how much he loves that Poehling, Cates, Hathaway line and gave them the first shift in overtime. I guess they didn't give up a goal, so it didn't bite them. But yeah, JP, I'm with you. I would have rather them launch with a forward duo that had a little bit more offensive upside than that one.
I know you love when I ask you about rules, Charlie, but JJ mentioned
Oh
it on the
boy.
broadcast, so I'm going to bring it up. Like, going back to when 3-on-3 started, I remember that first one, Flyers and Lightning in 2015. And if you Google it, like the first headline that shows up, fucking Gong Show. Like 3-on-3, it still has its moments. I still really enjoy it, but it's not what it used to be, with everyone realizing like, oh, we saw it both teams tonight. Like a puck at the blue line that might get challenged, fuck it, send it all the way back down to the goalie and let's regroup. Do you think the NHL needs to do anything, and do you think they will, because there's been so much talk about it?
I can't speak to whether they will make a rule change. The NHL does what the NHL wants. To me, I guess I'm not invested enough in it to care one way or the other. My thing is this: if they change the rules, and who knows, it's the NHL, they might, within a season, NHL coaches will find a way to make the new rules boring. Like, this is what NHL coaches do. Something is fun. Then NHL coaches figure out how to make it boring. They make it boring. Then they change the rules again. Then it's fun for a little bit until NHL coaches find another way to make it boring. Like, yeah, if they change the rules, if they tweaked it, maybe something with the blue line, maybe something with the red line, make it something like a half-court violation like there is in basketball, something like that. Yeah, for a little bit, it would probably make it more exciting. And then NHL coaches would find a way to make it boring. So I'm not saying I would be opposed to them tweaking 3-on-3 overtime to make it more fun. That said, I still thought this 3-on-3 overtime tonight was fine. Like, there were a ton of chances, especially in the second half of the 3-on-3. Like, once teams start getting into trading chances and the chaos gets going, it becomes hard for the coaches to convince the players, like, well, you got to regroup. No, then it becomes, we have a 3-on-2, let's just go. And then when they fail on their 3-on-2, then there's invariably a guy that gets caught and the other team goes back on their 2-on-1, and then the chaos starts. So I still think 3-on-3 on the whole is entertaining. I think this 3-on-3 overtime on the whole was entertaining, but there will be stretches of 2-3 minutes at times where teams want to play keep away. But I think even if they change the rules, NHL coaches would find a way to foster that sort of keep away anyway, just in a different way. Maybe we'd see like a four corners style Princeton offense, like if they cut out the red line. Like, coaches will find ways to make it boring because that's what coaches do.
I love the Eddie Jordan reference there, Charlie. Before we let you go, you heard and saw the reaction to the Elliot Friedman stuff today, right? The Flyers.
No, I'm honestly really trying to avoid Twitter because it drives me up the wall.
Well, bud, on 32 Thoughts today, Elliot Friedman have alluded to the idea that the Flyers could be adding a veteran goalie.
Yeah, I know the report. I just don't read Twitter anymore because people are nuts.
How do you feel about this potential change of plans for the Flyers?
I don't think it's as much of a change of plans as people maybe think it is. Like, Briere pretty much for a while has made it clear that he sees a distinction between trading what he views as prime assets, so high draft picks, prospects at the deadline, which he has made it clear he will not do, and trading away a late round pick here or there for a piece, for a rental of some sort. So in Briere's eyes, this is not a change of philosophy at all. This has always been on the table. Now, for the fans, I understand why fans, if they go about doing this, and again, my philosophy is I'm not going to criticize the Flyers for something that hasn't happened yet. This remains my philosophy. If and when moves are made, I will evaluate those moves, and I will judge the moves on the merits of the moves themselves, not on these reports, these rumors, these conjecture, speculation. I'm just not going to do it. It's not worth my time. I have enough. I have enough to do than to worry about like getting angry about stuff that hasn't happened yet. However, I understand why fans would feel like they have been sold a rebuild, and then you're going to go out and you're going to buy. You're not going to sell anybody. You're going to buy. Now, if they were to say trade Sean Walker for a package headlined by a first round pick, and then go out and trade, a fifth round pick for like this deadline's version of JVR, a guy who like the market just doesn't materialize on, and you can get him for cheap because the GM doesn't want to completely lose face by not getting anything for the guy, then I don't think that would be a repudiation or a betrayal of the rebuild because you still sold. Now, if the Flyers, if the deadline plays out where they don't trade Sean Walker, they re-sign Nick Seeler, Scott Laughton's still here, and then they trade a 5th-round pick for a backup goalie and a 6th-round pick for a forward that will send Ole Lycksell back to the minors. Yeah, that's worthy of criticism because then it's like, okay, how does this fit with this promised rebuild that you guys have been talking up all season? If that's the way it plays out, I will very much point out the discrepancy between their words and their actions, but I'm not going to waste my time and energy and column space criticizing them for something they haven't done yet.
Ever the professional. Charlie, Flyers win the first period shot battle 11-6, third period 14-5, overtime 6-1, 41-25 in the game, but lose 13-10 in the second, give up the only goal they give up in the second. What is the matter with second periods all of a sudden? It's like a problem.
It's funny, like Jackie Spiegel of the Inquirer pushed on that with a couple players, pushed on that with Torts. Torts dismissed it. I think this is more of a small sample size type thing where like it's fresh in everyone's heads that like over the last couple weeks, second periods haven't been great. So it allows us to make us believe it's a problem. I'm skeptical that the second period is now like an issue the Flyers need to fix. It hasn't been an all season thing. It's kind of a recent thing. I'm not terribly concerned. I do want to kind of change gears for a minute and talk a little bit about the reaction of the players and then the reaction of Torts to this game. Now, I came in, I'm going to be writing a column on this game, more or less setting up the next stretch, but the players came out of this game basically to a man, because we interviewed Laughton and then we interviewed Sanheim. They both made it clear they didn't believe this was their best game. Happy we got the point because we're in a playoff race and every point matters, but this was not our best game. We need to be better, especially with the games coming. John Tortorella then gets up in front of the media and honestly was much happier with this game than I thought he was going to be. His evaluation of the game was essentially that the first few periods, he didn't think the team played that well. He actually, despite the fact that they outshot the team they outshot the Blues by a lot in the first, he didn't like the first period. I agree. I didn't think they played very well in the first period at all. I thought that was a pretty even period between two teams that were playing like garbage, and the only reason why the Flyers looked like they had a massive advantage was because they blocked a lot of shots. John Tortorella more or less echoed that. So I thought the first period was not great. I thought the second period was also not great. And Tortorella agreed. He thought that those two periods kind of stunk. But what he liked, and he made this clear in his post-game presser, he really liked the response of the team in the third. He thought they played good hockey in the third. He thought they could have easily won that game in the third if Jordan Binnington didn't play as well as he did. And then overtime's overtime, and the shootout's a skills competition that doesn't even really matter, aside from the fact that it decides who gets 2 points versus 1. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's bullshit. It probably shouldn't exist with the otherwise reason of entertainment value, but it doesn't actually tell us anything about the quality of teams. Just going on a little anti-shootout rant. I like shootouts. I think they're fun. I just don't enjoy when people ascribe actual evaluation value to them. It's a crapshoot. It's a coin flip. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I did think it was interesting that John Tortorella was protective of his team after this game, that he did not throw them under the bus. He was not super critical. Instead, he made it a point to praise them for their response in the third, going into what is going to be a really tough stretch of games over the next 10.
No, and I think that's important. Like, one of the reasons we were told they named a captain is he thinks the locker room can kind of take care of itself. And as you said, if all of the players were like, yeah, that wasn't our best, then he doesn't need to come out and fucking blast them. So I do see that as like a bit of like maturity on the team side, like as a whole, kind of knowing what they need to do, and the coach going, all right, you figured it out. I don't have to kill you. So that's great. Like, that's good stuff. Do you have anything else, JP?
Can we get some roses to Sam Ersson, Charlie? 24-25 tonight. I mean, if it wasn't for that Kevin Hayes goal, he probably wins the game tonight, but he looked solid tonight.
It's the most Kevin Hayes goal ever.
I thought Ersson was really good. I know that the numbers might not show it, although I guess 24 out of 25 will still be a darn good save percentage. It just doesn't look as good because they didn't get as many shots. I thought he made a lot of really quality saves. I thought he was good in the shootout. I know he ultimately gives up the goal to Buchnevich, but he made a couple really, really nice saves. He had that one pad save, desperation pad save. I forget. Was that on Shen, I think?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
amazing. Fantastic, fantastic save. Look, I'm at the point with Sam Ersson that I just trust him. I trust him. I trust that he's going to, maybe not steal the Flyers games, but he is going to, on most nights, give them more than enough of a chance to win to give them a win. I don't worry about Sam Ersson, and I think that's where the Flyers are at with him. I guess where Torts is at with him, but more importantly, I think it's where his teammates are at, where they just assume that when Sam Ersson's in net, he's going to play well, and more often than not, he does. And tonight, he played well. Obviously, he doesn't get the win. It was funny. Torts actually said after the game, he said about midway through the third period, Binnington had probably made one of his really good saves, and Torts apparently turned to one of his assistants and said, I don't know if this guy's going to give up another goal the rest of the way. But then Torts said he then looked back at Ersson and then looked back to the same assistant. It's like, I don't know if our guy's going to give up another goal the rest of the way either. So it was just one of those games, I think, where both goalies are playing well. The Blues just found, one more to get past them than one more to get past the Flyers guy than the Flyers found to get past the Blues guy.
Charlie, oh no, we need to do your 3 stars. That's right. Before 3 stars, though, none of them are going to be the power play, right? Yeah, the power play is not going to be one of your stars tonight.
I mean, am I doing anti-3 stars? Am I doing the 3 worst players or 3 worst things of the game? Because it might be on there.
Without further ado, it is time for
star.
Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. Lead it off with star number 3.
Yeah, so I actually did the 3 stars in the arena tonight. However, one thing I'll have to explain about doing 3 stars in the arena, it gets really tough in these kinds of games because you have to give a bunch of contingencies of like, well, if the Flyers score, the game winner's ranked here, and this player's ranked here. If the Blues score, this player's ranked here, this player's ranked here. If it goes into overtime, if it goes into a shootout, whatever. So I basically was like, I told the guy who comes around for the sheet, I was like, okay, just do it. Ersson, Binnington, and then whoever gets the game winner is second. I probably would not have done that had I known it was going to go into a shootout. But I will give my 3rd star to Pavel Buchnevich for scoring the game winner in the shootout. It was a dirty goal. Really, really nice one. That was what it was going to take, I think, to beat Ersson in that situation. He pulled it off. Buchnevich didn't do anything especially spectacular to my eyes the rest of the game, but he got the technically game winner, even though it doesn't actually count as an actual goal. He got the technical game winner. He gave the Blues their 2nd point, so I give him my number 3 star as a result.
I do think I remember reading like the first year of the shootout, even though you don't get credited with a goal, you do get credited with a game winner. So technically, I think you're right there, Charlie. That's star number 3. Let's hear star number 2.
Star number 2 is Sam Ersson. Look, it was going to be the 2 goalies. I feel like the minute overtime ended without a goal, my 2 stars in my head are the goalies. And then it just comes down to, all right, whoever wins the shootout gets 1st star. Whoever doesn't win the shootout gets 2nd star. Ersson was really good tonight. He's, as we just talked about, he's a good goalie. He's a good goalie who is going to need to stay a good goalie for them to, wrap this up and actually lock down a playoff spot. We'll see if he can do it. He is still a rookie. But every game he delivers like this, where he just looks like a veteran out there, it makes me feel more and more confident that the Flyers, despite everything that happened this year, despite the fact that there's, a very, very strong chance that Carter Hart will never play another game for the Philadelphia Flyers. He very well may never play another game in the NHL, period, if he is found guilty of the awful things he was accused of and charged with. But even if Carter Hart is completely out of the picture for the rest of, time, I guess, I think the Flyers legitimately may have found themselves a number 1 goalie in Sam Ersson.
And let's finish it off with the inevitable star number 1.
Yeah, this was Jordan Binnington.
Binnington.
Look, I'm not a Jordan Binnington fan. I've never been a Jordan Binnington fan. I find his antics to be repellent. He just strikes me as a very annoying guy. He just, I don't know. A lot of the things he does rubs me the wrong way. But in this game, he was real friggin' good. and the Blues don't win this game if Binnington doesn't play the way he played. Sometimes this happens. The Flyers didn't play a great game. They probably played well enough to win, and if the team they were playing was getting league average goaltending, they would have won this game. But the team they were playing didn't get league average goaltending. They got really good goaltending from Jordan Binnington, and because of that, he deserves the first star of the game.
And that is Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. And you can see the difference between me and Charlie, because I love Jordan Binnington as someone you hate. And now you need to beat him. Like, you want to see the bad guy lose. But I think hockey just doesn't have enough bad guys, you know? And that's one of them right there. You root against him. Now it's up for the Flyers to beat him because they've only beaten him once in regulation in 7 starts. Charlie, I will actually see you in person tomorrow, right? You're gonna be in the studio. I'm gonna be able to see and touch you and smell you.
Yeah, I will indeed be in the studio. They canceled practice tomorrow, so this will be the only thing I have to do is go in the studio and do our show. Looking forward to it.
All right, I will see you tomorrow. Charlie, thank you for joining us. That
Thanks,
is
Charlie.
Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. Check out all his work at allphly.com. And of course, I got to tell you about our friends at Bagels & Company. Woo. That's right, Bagels & Co. First thing you have to know, the huge bagels, the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here with Philly love. And not just big, not just gigantic bagels themselves, but a huge variety of bagels, usually 15 to 20 different types to choose from daily. Anything from your regular everything bagel to a Doritos bagel, if you are so inclined. And when you have that many kinds of bagels, you need a ton of cream cheeses. 30 different flavors of cream cheeses available on a daily basis. But the most important thing, Bagels & Company is an affordable brand. You get a lot of food for cheap, and who doesn't need that? It's they're not artisan, they're not mom and pop, but we have a mom and pop feel. We cater to every individual. A lot of our customers are repeat customers, and you know why? Well, the bagels are awesome. It's affordable. The coffee's real good, too. You're going to want to try that Bagels & Company coffee. So for the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head to thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels & Company near you. All right, it's time to get to some of this trade deadline stuff. Now, okay. Charlie, again, much more professional, much more even-tempered than I am, JP, when it comes to things like this. He is not letting the reports that have not come to be yet bother him. I have maintained that that mindset for a lot of time leading up to this trade deadline, but now it's coming up this Friday. Make sure you're at the chicken or the egg. I'll do the full thing later. You don't have to give us the graphic yet, Brent. I know you're running for it, but you can join us Friday for the trade deadline show at the chicken or the egg in Marlton when we dive deep into all this stuff in a 2-hour live show. But today, I started to feel it a little bit, JP.
I just nervous?
Just like
palm sweating.
I have given this new, mom's vomit on my sweater already. Vomit on my sweater already. Mom's spaghetti. I'm sorry, I messed up the line. No, man, we're a few days away and they've done nothing. They've done nothing yet, and we got the scare. We got the scare tonight. Nick Seeler, okay, now one of our options is taken away. I just can't live in a world where I gave this new regime the benefit of the doubt, okay? They tell us they're rebuilding. They understand that this team is not truly a cup contender. They need to open up a prolonged window where you can have a chance to win a cup for several years, and then hopefully you get one. It'd be a dynasty, would be awesome, but that shit don't happen. Winning one for the first time since 1975, I'll take that. I don't know now. Maybe this is a great game of chicken. Maybe Danny Briere is using the media to negotiate, to tell teams
who's Howie Roseman.
Maybe he's telling the teams who don't want to pay the price tag that he has assigned to Sean Walker, Nick Seeler, and even Scott Laughton. We'll fucking keep him. We're going to the playoffs. You might not. Look at my division. We lost to the Devils and Penguins. They can't pass us because they keep losing. I'm going to the playoffs. If you want to go, you have to pay me. If that's what he's doing and he ends up getting his price or getting something close to his price, it's masterfully done. But if they're starting to believe their own bullshit, listen, this team has exceeded expectations. But they have been real fucking lucky along the way. Like, if the Devils could get a save at any point, they'd be 10 points clear of the Flyers, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
This is true.
If the Penguins just didn't suck, like if they had someone on the team that was under 35 years old who could play a little bit, they'd be clear of the Flyers too. I'm starting to get a little anxious. It's too close for comfort for me right now.
Well, here's the thing, too. Like, we don't know how Danny handles a trade deadline.
We don't. This is the first one.
So, like, we are all in the same boat trying to see how Danny will handle this. But I would have to assume that. So, like, I think all of us are in the assumption that either Walker, Sealer, or Lotz, one of them will be gone, or at least all of them, or 2 or 3. That's who we all have on our radar right now.
They're going to trade Mark Stahl for a 5th and no one else.
Here's the thing, though. If he doesn't do anything, I remember vividly the trade deadline where we just got rid of Braun and Brassard, and we let JVR stay here. We murdered Chuck Fletcher.
Yeah.
So if that was the case,
Chuck Fletcher got fired. The people who make the decisions, like Chuck Fletcher, he would still be the GM if the reaction to his last year's trade deadline wasn't, are you fucking kidding me? This guy's incompetent. Like, if the prevailing opinion wasn't, this guy's completely incompetent from literally everyone they call for season ticket renewals, then he'd still be the GM.
This is true.
But he's not, because that every person they called was like, your GM's a moron. Yeah, I'm going to pay you. Okay.
Literally.
Now that they're in playoff position, maybe it's a little different from the fans who are now showing up to games. But, like,
they have to
know. If they don't understand the situation they're in, that no matter how close to the playoffs you are, you're going to make it. Look at some of these teams. Like, the Vancouver Canucks just keep adding. The Florida Panthers are awesome. The Rangers are awesome. Like, just in the East, you have, I know I've said all year the East is kind of wide open. Shesterkin's coming on now for the Rangers. He's been real good. I know it's crazy to say that bringing up this gigantic goon, Matt Rempe, has given them an identity, but they have an identity now, and Artemi Panarin should be at least an outside looking in MVP candidate. They're freaking good. Florida, I don't know if anyone can beat them in a 7-game series because they're going to fucking kill you. Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, you got good players. We injured them all. Good luck. How about that? Nick Cousins just two-handed somebody. It's the playoffs. He got fined $5,000. He's going to play next game. Your guy won't. Like, there's just no way that this team, maybe they can win a round. Maybe they can win a round. Right now, they'd be matched up with who in the East? They're 3 they'd be matched up with the Hurricanes. Like, that's a real tough series. The Hurricanes are, they've played a bunch of real good games this year. The Hurricanes have won most of them.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
I just don't see, they have to know this isn't the year, and the year won't come until they have everything they need.
Yeah, I mean, like, they've been making it work. Like, obviously, like, they've been selling us that, yes, we are building for the future, but the culture within the locker room has been to win games. So I want to believe that this is where we're going to stay on this path here, where we're still thinking about the future with this deadline. And yes, we're after the 8th, we're going to go back in that locker room and still try to make the playoffs here. And I want to believe Danny Briere is going to stick to that.
I really hope that's the thing that happened with Keith Jones on WIP the other day, where he said, no, yeah, we're telling the fans we're rebuilding, but we told everyone in the locker room we're fucking going for it. And then Charlie asked him about it. He was like, listen, I'm on the radio. I'm just kind of saying stuff. And we'll see if that's true or not. We will see. Keith Jones is very good at his job, and he's very good at making you believe what he's saying is true. So maybe he is BSing us and he's fooled us all. I got to believe between him and Danny, they're smart enough. Now, all this said, I'm going to offer one caveat.
Okay.
I'm still going to crush them on Friday if they don't do shit, because we don't have this knowledge that they may have. If there's a chance, if they know something we don't know about Matvei Michkov, if he's coming over, I'm going to say sooner than later, but for the sake of this argument, if he's coming over for next season and not 3 seasons from now, that does change how I'm going to look back on this deadline in hindsight. Well, it's probably stupid to pay like Nick Sealer, who's going to be 31 on June 3rd, and Sean Walker, who's going to play all next year at 30. It's probably stupid to pay them. If it's like a 3 or 4 year deal, it might not be the dumbest shit ever if you're going to have another dynamic forward joining this team.
This is going to be a wild couple months, even like past this deadline.
I don't think this is going to happen, and I am saying this on no prior knowledge. But I had no idea that we were trading Cutter Gauthier for Jamie Drysdale. That just happened out of the blue. What if we wake up like the day of the draft, and it's like, yo, Michkov's at the practice facility. He signed his contract. Like, that is the only way in which not getting everything you can at this deadline makes any sense. And even then,
hasn't really made sense though. For the
like nothing this year's. That's a great point. Is nothing
makes sense for this
They
team.
finally recognize they're rebuilding as their best season in 4 years. Like, of course it is. You know,
that's the Flyers.
I guess that's just the Flyers. But that is the one thing I would say could possibly save a less than active trade deadline, is if they have information that the Mad Russian will be here sooner than we think.
Danny, Keithy, please just do us a favor here. We're going to the Chegg on Friday. I want to
text me, Jonesy.
At 4 p.m. I want to cheers Bill with a good glass of beer, maybe a shot too. Like I don't want us to be on here. I mean, obviously, if they don't do anything, it's going to be some good entertainment for this man next to me.
I don't want to be mad. I don't want to do this. Don't make me be mad at you. It took me this long to like you again. I want to love you. Don't make me go all the way back to hate. Don't make me do that.
Bill, I think you're in a toxic relationship. Just saying.
Every single one of us that is a Philadelphia sports fan is in a horribly toxic relationship.
This is true.
That we have no intention of leaving ever. And it's just kind of the way things are. And that's why sometimes you just need to chill. No, I already did that one.
Does it again.
I'll just do them again. Now, the next one up, it's the Game Time app. And we're not going to see the Flyers at home until after the trade deadline, but maybe you want to check out what this team looks like after the trade deadline. Well, the easiest way to do it, it's with Game Time, baby, because buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event, and that is what I am counting on the Monday after WrestleMania. My friends and I, we have our Mania tickets. We have all the stuff leading up to it. We do not have Monday Night Raw yet, and we are holding out for some of these flash deals because you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
April 5th, WrestleMania in Philadelphia. Okay, Bill.
It's going to be, we have, what is it? The 5th would be Friday, SmackDown in the Hall of Fame. 6th and 7th is WrestleMania, and Monday the 8th is that Monday Night Raw. Still don't have my tickets for that yet. Holding out. Going to use that Game Time app. Make sure you do the same and use that PHLY. Get $20 off. Not a bad deal.
Not at all.
How much more do we even have on tonight's game? I don't have that much. This trade deadline stuff. The one guy I'll say that I could live with holding on to is Scott Laughton.
I agree.
Because, one, I mean, you saw it tonight. Like, Scott Laughton's going to reach his career averages on except for last year where he scored the 18 goals, had the career year because he was playing second line minutes. He's about to be exactly the same as he was basically for the last 5 years. And there's no rush on trading Scott Laughton. You can always do it at the draft. You can always do it this summer. You can always do it at next trade deadline. He has 2 years left on his deal. So that's kind of the one guy. Like, there are 3 defensemen I would like to see at least 2 of them traded in Sealer, Stahl, and Walker. Laughton is not... I'm not in a huge rush to move him because I do understand what he means.
If the deal is there, I'm doing.
Oh, if the deal is there, absolutely.
But I'm with you. I'm not trading him just to trade a name there because we're still rebuilding or whatnot. But no, I mean, like you talk about Laughton, he's obviously played really well as of late. But more importantly, we talk about culture and accountability. That's one guy that Torts relies on for some of those messagings there in the locker room as well. So it's important to have a guy like Laughton there.
Absolutely. And as we're doing all this talking about the trade deadline, I have to tell you about the Chegg on March 8th. That's this Friday. It is our watch party trade deadline show at the Chicken or the Egg in Marlton, New Jersey. 2 to 4 p.m. We are doing a 2-hour live show leading up to and then following the trade deadline. The deadline is at 3 p.m. We're going to go till 4. It is going to be a great time. I've been reading up on this Chicken or the Egg, and sounds like they have some fantastic wings. You were asking me about some of the sauces earlier. I am a big fan of the hot sauce. What is is Inferno or?
We're going to find this out because I definitely want to do this with you, Bill. I want to try the spiciest wing they have.
I am 100% for that. I adore hot sauces and spicy food, and maybe that's what we'll do if I'm a little fired up on the show. We'll do like, is that what that show The Hot Ones is about?
I think so.
You like try to do a normal thing, but you eat something super spicy.
Yeah,
that's what I take from the.
Imagine doing a deadline like that, a deadline show like that.
Just like eat a hot wing, and it's like, yeah, the Flyers didn't trade Nick Seeler. Your thoughts? They re-signed him for 4 years and $4 million. Like my thoughts are, and just sweating profusely. I think that could be some really good content.
That'd be some really, really funny ass.
We're gonna try a lot of fun things, but the most important thing is we see you there on this Friday, the Chegg. It's fun to say.
It is fun to say. I love that name, the Chegg. Make sure you guys are there. We'll have a beer together.
Marlton, New Jersey. We will have several beers together. I am really looking forward to it. And while we're at it, Takeover, March 14th, Flyers Leafs. Meet up in the assembly room. It's going to be a great time. It's brought to you by our friends at Olipop. You can see the Olipop fridge behind us that they have graced us with. I kind of want to grab one out of there, but it seems like it's a display that I shouldn't like screw with. But they're really good.
They're fake cans, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, they fake cans. I think I see a watermelon lime in there, and I do love that one. But it's the event, the Takeover event, March 14th. It's brought to you by Olipop. It's going to be a great time. Flyers Leafs at the Wells Fargo Center. Last game they played was a lot of fun. I think it's going to be great again. Get your tickets at allphly.com/events. And that is all the time we have for you on Postgame tonight. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. We'll be back live tomorrow right here on this YouTube page at 3 p.m. Set your reminders so you never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. PHLY Flyers wherever there are podcasts. My name is Bill Matz. For JP Zapata, have a great week, Philly.
See you, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.